Hello and good evening to you all. I hope you've had a wonderful start to the week before Christmas. Um, and I hope to welcome lots of you here. There seem to be lots of you coming in. Paulie and Bambi and Jojo and Hillary and Clown, that's a new one. Louise and Melissa Neal. Hello to you all. And Harriet is here. Harriet will help, I hope, with a little quiz later on. You do seem to love the quiz, and our local followers here even have said that they enjoyed the quiz. I was speaking to one of them today about it, so they were messaging me about it. So anyway, there's plenty to talk about. The continuing saga of the Bleating Baroness bra. The miserable Michelle Mone, the grubby Glaswegian grifter, is trying to justify her position. She's digging a hole, and when you're in the hole, you're meant to stop digging, but this woman doesn't seem to have a clue. Social media is not the place she should be right now, but we'll come to that. I'm going to talk about the sale of a flat. It's not actually a flat, it's just a balcony. £50,000 was what they wanted for a balcony in South Kensington, just a green space. But it was sold to somebody who wanted it for something else. They paid £35,000 in the end. Prince Andrew and the weirdness of the fact nothing will be released about him until 2065, yet we have Meghan and Harry, Meghan and the drip spouting continually. We can know everything about them and what they've had in private conversations, but we can't know about him. And then finally, the owner of the wallaby-killing dog, Russell Brand, who has been quizzed again by the police on new allegations. As you may gather, I don't like the unfunny creep Russell Brand. We will come to him. So I suppose I should begin with another little story, actually. I'll begin with a story which is something you can support, which is in Bristol. A community are trying to turn a cinema that is derelict back into a cinema. Now, here in Broadstairs, we have a lovely local cinema called The Palace. It's fantastic, and I go there very often. It's very near to where I live, and you can have a drink there and watch a film. It's very lovely. It's a charming film. They even filmed Maggie Smith in there, going into there, pretending it was a village hall, but not a cinema, but in the Lady in the Van. It was a prominent feature in that film. So Broadstairs, several locations featured. So do watch The Lady in the Van if you haven't watched it already. A lovely film based on the true story of Alan Bennett, a brilliant writer. And, I had to study his works at school, and I've had several encounters with him. I think he's a very witty person. And The History Boys, another of his great things, The Talking Heads, to be recommended. Alan Bennett. So there we go. Garden Room would like to get rid of Jonathan Ross as well. Jonathan Ross is not someone I have any respect for. I don't find him in any way amusing, to be honest. I find him quite tedious, but I don't know him personally, but I don't watch his programs because I just don't find him amusing. Obviously, many others do because thousands and millions watch it. So he's been going a long time, but I thought the whole behavior of Russell Brand and Jonathan Ross in the Sachs saga, when they upset an elderly man about what had gone on with his daughter, was utterly reprehensible, and Jonathan Ross should have been punished as much as Russell Brand. But Russell Brand, things are coming back to haunt him. So returning to my story, a place called the Redfield Cinema in Bristol has now had its asset of community value upheld. It was a cinema. and it's currently owned by a property developer. Surprise, surprise. And this property developer doesn't want it to be a cinema. And the local community are running a campaign, which I will provide you a link to the campaign. If you're interested, you can support these people. Now, this cinema wants to restore it. It closed in 1961, but it's mostly intact. In the time since, the building has been used as a Wetherspoons and a bingo hall, but most of the cinema actually remains, and it's rather impressive that it's a 130-seat cinema. Cleona McConnell. Good evening to Cleona McConnell. That's Max's daughter. Hello, good evening, and welcome to you. Very pleasant to have you here. Max is a wonderful local and a local character who I go fishing with and ride the loop bus with from time to time. And we do go around the loop. Yes, we're off the loop. Yes, it's a local thing to go on this bus that goes round and round. Anyway, the cinema closed over 50 years ago, and Landrose want to turn it into what they call quality, typical property developer, quality commercial and co-living accommodation, which they claim is much needed in Bristol and St. George. Now, these locals don't want this. They want it to be a cinema. And they cite the fact that audiences for cinemas have actually grown in recent years. People love going. I love going to a cinema. I'd rather watch on a big screen than on a television in my own home. And it's lovely to go and sit in a little cinema across the road where I can walk to it very easily. And I urge you all to support your local cinema. I'm not saying go to these mega huge cinemas, though you can enjoy that. I also like going to cinemas where they have those comfortable seats and you can sit there and have a drink. Or equally, some of my friends do have wonderful home cinemas that are equally epic, but that's only if you've got the space for it. But in central London, many homes now have those, and they are quite impressive in many cases. But go and support your local cinema, like the Palace Cinema here. Or if you want to go and watch more mainstream films, obviously there are, chains of cinemas where you can do that. But I prefer the local cinema. Now, this greedy developer is trying to stop these people. They have got backing to fund it. So it was sold by it opened from 1912 to 1961 as a 750-seat cinema. So now, it's much smaller at 130 seats remaining, but it could easily function. Then it was used as a bingo hall for 20 years. It was bought by Wetherspoons, the dreaded Tim Martin, who is a thoroughly bizarre Brexiteer weirdo who doesn't like dogs. He doesn't like social media. He doesn't like champagne, so he banned it. He only has English beer. He doesn't like this. He doesn't like Jägermeister. He banned that. And not that I drink it, but there we go. Cheers to the downfall of him. I can't stand the man. But anyway, he sold it in 2021 to Wetherspoons. Sorry, Wetherspoons sold it to the developer Landrose in 2021. And already by November 2021, the campaign to save the cinema received over 7,000 petition signatures. Now, the status has been given to this cinema of community value asset. And this individual, who is called Mr. Woodward, he has something to do with this William Woodward of Landrose, claims that cinema audiences have been dwindling. The campaign group say the only thing that is ludicrous is Landrose's myopic pursuit of profit. So I do think we should support this campaign. So please do join in and support the campaign to save the Redfield cinema from greedy developers. There is a need to have community assets wherever you may be. So do support it. I've just shared the link again. I have no affiliation with it, and I've never been there. I've been to Bristol several times, but I haven't been to this cinema because, well, it hasn't been open since a long, long time ago. But they should bring it back. They should not knock it down when it is definitely something that people want. So do support the campaign for the reasons to save the cinema. Or, it's a cinema that is something for the community. So please join in with it. And there we go. So that's that matter dealt with. Now, the toe rag of the day, Russell Brand, has been brought before the Metropolitan Police yet again. He attended a South London police station for a second time, and he was interviewed under caution over 6 allegations following question in November over 3 non-recent alleged sexual offence allegations. This man, Brand, is someone who is deeply unpleasant. He is offensive in what he did to this girl who he was involved with. He rang in with Jonathan Ross, and he was sanctioned for what he did over that years back. He clearly has no moral compass. He is not amusing. He is grubby and grimy and slimy and stupid. He is revolting. And he also has no shame about what he gets up to. He bought a pub near Henley, or where he lives, and he closed that down. And this man, well, Mouse, not a man, has, again, another one that goes around closing down pubs. We don't like people who close down pubs. He wanted to turn it into some kind of recording studio. I don't think anything will be happening with it in the foreseeable future, given these allegations against him. But he wanted to open a vegan restaurant. Well, there's nothing wrong with a vegan restaurant if you're vegan. I have perfect respect for people's rights to be whatever they wish to be. I like eating venison. I like eating grouse. I like eating chicken and beef. So it wouldn't be a place that I would naturally go to, but I do love some vegan and vegetarian dishes. So this Russell Brand, back in June 2021, after he'd moved to a place called the Thatched Cottage at Mile End Reach, which actually featured in two killer episodes, one of Inspector Morse and the sequel Lewis, on occasions. And so this person, Brand, moved there, and he has this ridiculous dog that is delinquent. And a nearby private zoo had wallabies escape from it long, long ago. Well, Brand's dog, a German shepherd called Bear, caught one of the female wallabies whilst it had it in its pouch and mauled it to death. Now, people didn't attack him. They described him as quick thinking and a hero, but they neglected to mention or condemn him for the out-of-control pet disgustingly slaying another animal. They claim, the Sun claimed at the time, he sprang into action. And one was simply left asking, I said at the time, why is the Sun so ludicrously lauding Russell Brand for rescuing the victim's offspring Joey from its pouch, as its parent died the most hideous of deaths, when it was in fact his own self-declared tornado of fear dog that caused this utterly avoidable incident. If Brand's dog had attacked a sheep or child, which it quite potentially could do next, given it plainly has a clear penchant for blood, would the Sun so easily have leapt to his defence? The hypocrisy of this shocking story is clear, and today we call upon the RSPCA and police to intervene before Brand's dog slaughters something else. Well, nobody intervened, and this dog, this savage dog, which was out of control, and I love dogs, there are wonderful dogs out there, but this man does not control his dog, but he self-admits that he doesn't control his sexual urges and has behaved reprehensibly in the past. Now, that doesn't make him a criminal, and he awaits an investigation. So there are many allegations against him. There were 4 in September, and now there are new ones. This person is of ill repute, undoubtedly of ill repute by his behavior, is under investigation. Detective Superintendent Andy Furphy, who is leading the police inquiry, said, "We continue to encourage anyone who believes they may have been a victim of sexual offence, no matter how long ago it was, to contact us." He's not specific about the case, but that, of course, is not surprising. But this individual is quite ridiculous, but he claims that this is not fair. He claims there is another agenda against him. There are 2 sides to every story. One has to admit this. As loathsome and dislikable as he is, he deserves fair process. I do not condemn his right to a free and fair trial. Ahead of the first allegations, he said he vehemently denied these allegations. And he added, now during the time of promiscuity, he openly admits his promiscuity. The relationships I had were always consensual. Well, that is up for debate. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent, and I'm being transparent about it now as well. To see that transparency metasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? So there we are. Well, I do think that this man, Russell Brand, is revolting. And, you know, he is somebody who, frankly, makes my stomach turn. He is revolting, but he does deserve a fair process. But equally, if these people are genuine victims of his, they deserve justice. And I hope justice is served whatever way it comes, because people who abuse people should not get away with it. That is something that should be remembered. And if he is proven to be such, well, let the process run its course. So Nicole adds, Russell Brand needs a jet wash. Melissa Neal says it can't understand why it's gone all so quiet about him. Well, it hasn't. It's all, as I've just said, he has been questioned about new allegations. So that is why I'm talking about him. Harriet has a more offensive comment, which I shan't repeat, but many people may agree. Socio Mario does not listen to his shows or podcasts. Isnekia says, whatever happens, I don't think he will ever be respected again. Nice to see back on the gin. Well, I do try to have a drink for everybody. So there we go. Yes, well, we will be having plenty of gin and beer and wine in the coming days. And we'll also be attending, probably tomorrow, the local cheese afternoon at the wonderful Magnet. That is a lovely thing put on by the wonderful Samantha, and it brings the community together, and I think community spirit is very good. And at this time of year, think of the people who are by themselves for Christmas, or, you know, elderly people who have no relatives left, and be kind to your neighbor, but as you should be kind to your neighbor at any time of year. Or if you see homeless people, you know, like I did last night, I saw someone homeless and I thought, well, I'll buy them a sandwich, because, you know, what else can you do? You've got to give them, you've got to give people something. And I thought they might want something to eat, so I bought them a sandwich. You can't buy them something warm, because supermarkets around here don't sell warm food because they're all very small. But anyway, there we go. So I think we've said all we need to say about the dreadful Russell brand. And, I do think that this owner of a wallaby slaying dog is quite frankly a complete cretin. But there we go. So it's been revealed today in the Evening Standard that a third floor balcony, this is a balcony that measures 3.4 meters by 3.5 meters, were sold for $35,000 after being listed for sale in July. So this is a terrace near to Gloucester Road and South Kensington underground stations. This is not even an inside room. It's not like the broom cupboard I spoke about that had been turned into a £275,000 flat. Oh, and thank you very much to JJ for your £10 donation. That is very kind of you, JJ. Very kind of you. I appreciate all the generosity of our followers and the wonderful gin and books and other things that you send to me at the Magnet also. Very, very kind. So this garden was a roof garden, which is 128 square foot for those who think in more traditional terms. Went on sale with the agent Nicholas Van Patrick and was sold after 200 inquiries. On top of the £35,000, one has to pay an annual service charge of £1,300. But the reason the person bought it was not for the roof terrace. They didn't want the roof terrace. What they wanted was the right to get a parking permit. Parking permits in Kensington are very, very popular things and hard to come by because even if you have a home, you're only limited to a certain number of permits. And I think it's one or two, but the maximum. So people had looked at it with ideas of turning it into an art gallery. Well, I don't think you could really do that with it. Installing a post box or putting glass or plastic frames around it so it was waterproof. One Chinaman wanted to use it as an art space, but they pulled out. So the agent had received 191 new inquiries since November about it. People wanted to pitch a tent there, build a conservatory, hold dance classes there. But he said that the agent said, I bet the neighbors would love that. So the agent claims his phone went off the hook. He had his share of wind-up inquiries, thinking the entire flat was for sale. They'd not read the full description. Others called the terrace an expensive doormat. One said, I'd like to buy this terrace so that I can sip mojitos and go back to my cardboard box on the street afterwards. He laughs. Why would you waste your time to write that? Others responded by saying they'd like to carve up bits of their own garden. I can get a quick 50 grand from separating my garden up. It's not as straightforward as that, he concluded. Anyway, this is a sign of the times, says this man, Mr. Jacobs, the agent. And he said, I think it is a sign of the times. The poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. I think people that are struggling are more likely to view it negatively. People in Chelsea putting up balconies for 50 grand. It's caught people's attention on that basis. People can't afford rents and now they can't afford terraces, he says. It's a tough at the moment. I think this struck a chord. So this was the agent, Glenn Jacobs. I'm very surprised he was so negative about that in his own, having made a profit out of it. There we go. So it is a ridiculous thing. So to think that people are paying that amount of money. I spoke of the broom cupboard in Knightsbridge for $275,000, which is not even actually a legally permissible space to live in, because it's far smaller. You'd like to see a link to this, right? Okay, well, here is a link. If you wish to have a look at this ludicrous balcony, you can't buy it anymore. I've seen lots. I've written about lots of these kind of cupboards, and they are very, very expensive. You get access to the balcony, I would assume, through the communal area of the building. It's probably on a half landing, as they call them here in the United Kingdom, like Americans have half bathrooms, which is something I've never quite understood the concept of, which obviously means it's just a lavatory. At least they don't call it a half toilet. I can't stand that word. The word toilet is terribly common. There we go. So I'm turning into a techie. Well, I am capable of doing cut and paste, but not much else. A roast badam. So there we go. Anyway, that is the story of a balcony for £35,000. Completely mad. Now, before we get back to the popular topic of the day, the Baroness bra matter, the bumbling Baroness, I'm going to talk about a historian who has been in contact with me called Andrew Lowney, who is writing a book about Prince Andrew. But before I do, I shall recommend a book which I was contacted about when it was being written, and I did have correspondence with the author, Nigel Cawthorne. That's a book called Prince Andrew, The End of Monarchy and Epstein by Nigel Cawthorne, which was published by Gibson Square in... where is it? Normally at the beginning of the right, in 2020 by Gibson Square, and it is by Nigel Cawthorne, and The End of Monarchy and Epstein, Prince Andrew. So it's an interesting read. There are, there's bits of information in there, and also I've been in touch with Prince Philip's relation, Christina Oxenberg, who is one of the Greek royal family, and she has been a fount of all knowledge, and we have had quite a correspondence about Prince Andrew, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, who she knew very well, and she has not much respect for certain people, and she has a lot of respect for others. She's a fascinating lady, and along with Kirby Summers, whose book she kindly mentioned me in, and that was very kind of her. Her book is not right in front of me right now, but I think it's downstairs, so I will give you a link to that book again in the future, because Kirby Summers has been one of the most tireless campaigners in this matter. But today, Andrew Lowney has written for the Daily Mail about Harry and Meghan made pots of money revealing private conversations from the palace, yet we're banned from knowing what trade envoy Prince Andrew did until 2065. Andrew Lowney says this is absurd. Now, Prince Andrew is a ridiculous, reprehensible person, and of course he's come much back to light in the last 24 hours because people are comparing the ludicrous interview of Michelle Mone to his interview. Now, meanwhile, I've got Nicole asking, when was the last time I had to buy gin? I often have to buy gin, yes. Gin doesn't last very long in this house, I'm afraid to say. But I haven't got enough gin to last until 2024, Hillary. No, it doesn't last very long at all, especially with the number of guests, I have to say. There we go. All gin has been welcomed. So thank you to all the people for all the lovely gin. And we always welcome more gin here. And the gin sent by Bambi is being appreciated. It doesn't last long. any gin in this household. Gin is always, sadly, part of what we call a faulty bottle here. There we go. So there we go. Anyway, this man, Andrew Lowney, has intention to publish more works on Prince Andrew, but he is being stopped by the Public Records Act and the Freedom of Information details, and this is somewhat ludicrous. He says the Freedom of Information Act is no longer fit for purpose and needs reform. But alas, no politician shows any interest to championing such a cause, which goes to the heart of trust and transparency in government. The turkeys vote for Christmas. This culture of unnecessary secrecy, which is what is protecting all sorts of information about Prince Andrew, Randy Andy, the non-sweating, Pizza Express loving bestie of the late paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. And, why can't they open up some information about this? I find with lots of cases that I deal with, there is always a matter of, what things covered up. I've spoken about the case of the Bakelite heir who murdered his mother in Cadogan Square, and that is sealed for over 100 years. And that's just a simple familial case. Okay, the mother was murdered by her son, but why is that held until whatever date it is, 2056 or something, I think it was. But this person is taking it too far. And meanwhile, before I shall interrupt and say thank you very much to Melissa Neal, thank you very much for your donation. That's very, very kind of you. That's most generous. Melissa Neal, thank you very much. Very kind indeed. So Andrew Lowney thinks it's absurd that we can't see the papers in the National Archives. Why don't we know about the cost of the Metropolitan Police protection given to this man? It is quite ridiculous. He doesn't perform any royal duties. Mr. Lowney has made 40 Freedom of Information requests, coordinated his decade for a decade. He doesn't get anywhere with it. And this is ridiculous. He is told they have nothing. So nothing will be released until 105 years after the Duke of York. The old Randy Andy is going to be protected until then. But, this is unacceptable in this modern era. I don't think it is correct. I think it is totally wrong. Nick Stewart does not understand his sweating excuse. He claims he went into trauma whilst in the Falklands and as a result lost the ability to sweat. But pictures of him leaving nightclubs, he looks a little bit sweaty, to say the least. And, anyone who can remember going to a Pizza Express over 20 years ago is also a little bit dubious. But anyone who hangs out with the convicted criminal fraudster Bernie Ecclestone, like he does, and they often have little dinners together, tete-a-tete, two very odd people. The skinflint Bernie Ecclestone, who had to pay $653 million to stop himself going to jail, and the man who paid $12 million to a woman who supposedly he'd never met. The two of them have rather selective memories. But Mr. Lowney is quite right to call this out. It is absolutely ridiculous that Harry the Half-Wit is going around peddling private conversations, yet this member of the family is able to keep everything locked up in archives, and the Freedom of Information Act is being abused by authorities and needs reform, says Mr. Lowney. I totally agree with him. It is time that this matter was dealt with. So that is all I have to say on that topic. And for our final topic of the day, we're back to the grubby Glaswegian grifter, aka Michelle Mone, Baroness Bra, and her sloppy seconds husband, Doug Barrowman, who, as I said earlier today on my Twitter, he doesn't look like he visited Doug Hayward, the famous tailor of Mount Street, who was tailor to everyone from Michael Caine to Bianca Jagger, and he was a much loved tailor and a legend. He has quite a story, and if you look him up, Douglas Hayward of Mount Street, and he has a wonderful shop and sells wonderful. Well, he did have a wonderful shop. The business is still going, but he sadly died. But they sell wonderful, wonderful clothes, and not all of them are incredibly expensive, but you can buy all sorts of things there. Obviously, I'm a fan of Bernard Weatherall, but I think some of the things in Douglas Hayward are equally delightful. So do look up Douglas Hayward. So this Baroness, Lady Michelle Mone, as she calls herself now, started off by returning to Twitter. She said previously on the 13th of December, if I'm being honest, the public probably see me as a horrible person, a liar, or even a cheat, but I am none of those things. These last 2 years have taken a horrendous toll on me personally, and I want to clear my name. So she decided to do an interview with Laura Kuenssberg, and that has gone down like the lead balloon. But of course, many of you haven't watched and nor have I in full, but I shall be watching it. There is a 1 hour, 11-minute program with Mark Williams Thomas, which I did touch upon. Here is the link to the Mark Williams Thomas program, which I shall watch myself later this evening. Now, I have encountered Mr. Williams Thomas, as I had mentioned. He had involvement with the Jimmy Savile matter, and he was saluted for his involvement with that. And he also did a lot about the McCanns. I don't particularly agree with all his analysis, but he has made some interesting points. But he was paid to make this documentary, so I will take it with a pinch of salt. So I do recommend watching it, but this woman, Mone, the Mona, it's a very unfortunate name for this grubby grifter who, you know, if you're in a hole, you should stop digging. She is making it worse. She claims now, in total, we took part in a 90-minute interview with the BBC to discuss the truth about the PPE scandal. This has been selectively edited down by producers for TV, but you can watch a longer version on BBC iPlayer and make your own mind up. So, if she really is going to moan about it, why did she say those things? Why didn't she take advice and speak sensibly? Why didn't she tell her husband to put on a shirt that actually fitted? And why didn't he wear a jacket that actually fits also? And why did she look like a Botoxed bozo? She looked utterly like a plastic doll. Plastic, not fantastic, I would add. This woman is completely ridiculous. And yesterday also, she took offense because on Twitter, or X as it now calls itself, articles that she shared about this program on the BBC were labelled by the community notes as factually incorrect. She adds, this label by community notes is biased and factually incorrect, she claims. An email sent in 2020 by the Cabinet Office to PPE MedPro said our gowns had been approved by Technical. We dispute all claims by the government that the product was defective and intend to clear our name. Betty Clark asks me if I'm fat shaming. No, I'm not fat shaming. I'm saying if you're a multi-millionaire, you can afford to buy clothes that actually fit, especially if you're doing a TV interview in the hope of clearing your name. One should always buy clothes that fits oneself, especially when you look as grubby and grimy as him. And you'd think that his wife, who is obviously obsessed with fashion, might have had some input into making a suggestion of what he perhaps should wear to make himself appeal to the public instead of looking like the Barrow boy rather than the Barrow man. As Piers Pottinger, the PR person, called him out, what was he thinking of going on television looking such a wreck? He looked like a car crash. So she's moaned about that. She said it's not objective, it's very biased, factually incorrect, da, 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 da. And then today she's had a go at Rishi Sunak because he said that the government are taking it very seriously. She said, what is Rishi Sunak talking about? I was honest with the Cabinet Office, the government, and the NHS in my dealings with them. They all knew about my involvement from the very beginning. So she's turning on the hand that fed her. David Cameron, why did you give this dreadful woman a title in the first place? She is a complete pest. As Elaine Harvey said, the husband looks like Billy Bunter. Linda Joe says it looks like her back garden is a golf course. Well, she's got a rather big house on the Isle of Man, the rainy place for shady people. I did get some kickback on my having called the Isle of Man a rainy place for shady people, but Somerset Maugham called the Monaco a shady place, a sunny place for shady people. I don't think there's any problem with that. I don't like the Isle of Man personally, but I'm sure there's plenty of perfectly pleasant people there. I just found it rained a lot, and it's very, very bizarre. It's not my kind of place. I shan't be ever going back there willingly. Right, so that is Lady Michelle Mone's Twitter account. If you want to read some of her tweets, here's the link. I do think that this woman is completely ridiculous. She has gone far, far further than Prince Andrew in making a complete prat of herself. She's definitely the Wally of the week. She's definitely the moron of the moment. And maybe she could be in a lot deeper water, And, the led by donkeys people who are very, very clever at campaigning, they attacked her yacht earlier this year and put on a little sign. They didn't damage her yacht. They just put on a little sign on it saying pandemic profiteer, they described her as. There we go. Yes, she is somebody who has really gone too far. She claims she was honest. Well, she admitted she lied. Forevermore, any paper can call that woman a liar, and they will. And she deserves it because she admits she told lies. Just as Bernie Ecclestone is a convicted criminal fraudster now, and he can't stop me saying that because he is convicted of fraud. So he's a criminal and he's a fraudster. Baroness Mone is a liar. We can all call her a liar. She is a confirmed liar. So don't beat about the bush. This woman is a liar and she's a disgrace. And she thought she was being clever, and she thinks she's being very clever with the help of Laura Koonsberg, who, quite frankly, is no great Jerry Paxman and is not giving him a ride for his money, and Mark Williams Thomas, who was paid to peddle whatever story she wished to have, even though he claims he would have outed her for whatever she is. So and I will watch his program and I will give you my feedback tomorrow. But I have to say, Baroness Mone has dug a hole and she's made life a hell of a lot worse. She is ridiculous. She is a ridiculous ratbag. And as for bad boy Barrowman, they should both be put not on their yacht, the Lady M, which they claim isn't their yacht. They should be thrown on to the Bibby Stockholm. I'm told also that Cult Television is in the house. Good evening to Cult Television, who happily and kindly made a program with me about the story of Diana Moore, who I knew of, and my family knew, who was tragically murdered with a crossbow, and also about my views on Miss Marple. So you can watch that video on my main channel, which is the one video that was actually made professionally and properly. So hello to Cult Television. I won't name Cult Television because I know he's notoriously private, but we welcome Cult Television and we welcome Max, because I think Cleona is actually Max. I don't think maybe Max is using his daughter's account. And we welcome all sorts of other people here, including Nick Stewart, who is a regular at the Magnet and today reported all the local gossip that was going on there. And on that note, well, we've rattled through a load of topics. So here we are, and let's be having you, as they say, as Jimmy Savile would say. It's time for our quiz. So Harriet, Harriet, if she's ready, we can do yet another page of this quiz. We've got all sorts of quiz books to go through, so I don't think we'll ever run out of quiz books. I don't need any more quiz books, please. I don't know what to do with them. I've got several copies of some of them now. So I don't really need more quiz books, but we always need more gin and other lovely things. Thank you very much to you all. And for the socks and the paintings and all sorts of things that I get sent. It's absolutely like Christmas every day for me. So, right. What is the name, question number 1, of Winnie the Pooh's human owner? JJ asks, but meanwhile, do I have an ice machine? I don't have an ice machine. In my old home, I had a commercial ice machine, best thing I ever owned or possessed. It was a wonderful thing to have, but I unfortunately wouldn't be able to do that in this particular house because I'm not able to. But there we go. But one day in another house, I'll probably have a full-sized ice machine. Yes, I don't like those American fridges. They are pointless. They just spray ice all over the floor. But I do like commercial ice machines. They just take a lot of maintenance. Anyway, the winner of the question, the point for the question is Chili Careen with Christopher Robin. Chili Careen gets the point. Well done to Chili Careen. The answer is not Cilla Black. Alexis, another wonderful friend. Hello, Alexis. Welcome. Alexis is a regular here, and Alexis is somebody who is a very respected columnist and mentions about the restaurant where she forgot to pay. Yes, Michelle Mone did forget to pay in a restaurant, but that's a story for another day. We shall definitely go into that one. I will speak to you, Alexis, about that, and we'll come back to you. Question number 2, meanwhile. In the nursery rhyme, Hickory Dickory Dock, which animal ran up the clock? Bambi gets the point with a mouse. She was the first to get it. She was very quick, Bambi. Question number 3. Which part of the body does an optician examine? Hillary would love to get a question right. Well, I'm sure you would. Cult Television gets the point with a mouse. No, sorry, no, you don't get the no, you don't get the point. Sorry. Well, you're on the previous question. Anna Perkins, who's behind you, right after you, gets the point with I on this occasion. Sorry. Right, we're getting all confused here. Right. Mars was the Roman god of what? Bambi gets another point with war. Well done to Bambi, and Mary T and Nick Stewart were close second and third. There we go. Harriet has got it all written down. Our Miss Debbie McGee of the evening is a very efficient taker of notes, so thank you to her. Right, which W is the twisted thread in the middle of a candle? Cult television is on a transatlantic delay. Rosebud Arm is on a transatlantic delay too, or some other kind of delay. Nick Stewart gets the point with the Wick. Well done to Nick Stewart, who is a Broadstairs local. So he's obviously got Broadstairs broadband. He's obviously bounding into the winner's book here. There we go. He's got a point, so well done to him. What do we usually call the reflective studs in the middle of the road? Invented by a wonderful gentleman called Percy Shaw. I shall find you some information on Percy Shaw, who was an utterly fascinating man, interviewed by the wonderful Alan Wicker, Wicker's World. So Mary T gets the point with the cat's eye. Percy Shaw was a truly amazingly wonderful person. So I shall provide you with a link to Percy Shaw, who was born in 1890 and died in 1976. Now, he was somebody of great note for many other reasons. He was very, very eccentric. And Alan Wicker, I only ever met Alan Wicker once, but Wicker's World was wonderful. Sadly, Percy Shaw did have a J.D. Wetherspoon pub in Halifax named in his honour, but he was an eccentric Yorkshireman who kept 4 televisions running constantly so as not to miss anything. This was at a time when there were only 4 channels. He had 2 Rolls Royces on the basis that he didn't want to go without one whilst it was being serviced, and even built a replica of his local bar in his sitting room so he could invite his friends round for drinks each night. He was a very, very eccentric man, but a very wonderful man. There we go. That is the story of Percy Shaw, and you can watch a wonderful program about him. I'm sure it's still probably on YouTube somewhere. Cult Television asks, did Alan Wicker use his Barclaycard? I don't think when they did that interview, he probably had a Barclaycard. So I think you're a little bit ahead of your time, Cult Television. Right, next question is, and I'll see if I can find one. I don't have to interrupt with a story. What is the national flower of England? Nick Stewart gets yet another point with Rose. Well done to Nick Stewart. Nick Stewart is preparing for the cheese afternoon tomorrow, and he's trying to be winner chicken dinner also. So he obviously doesn't want just the cheese. He wants the main course as well. Right. Copper, tin, and aluminium are all types of what sort of element? Nick Stewart gets yet another point. It's metal. Yes, well done to Nick Stewart, who obviously Broadstairs Broadband is serving him well in point scoring here. Right, and question number 9. Fresh oranges are an especially good source of which vitamin? Bambi Debonair beats Nick Stewart. Bambi Debonair gets the point with vitamin C. Well done to her. Which D is a national park in Devon, England? I spent quite a bit of time staying there once for a few months, and I had a wonderful time up there on the moors. But which one was it? Conrad Wilson gets the point with Dartmoor. Now, Alexis Parr is rather delayed, it seems, because she's still on the question about the candles. So, Alexis, we thank you for your answers, but they are coming in a little late, so do keep up. Right. In the children's Mr. Men stories, what colour was Mr. Happy? Bambi Debonair wins with yellow. Bambi Debonair gets yet another point. Name the giant radioactive dinosaur that first appeared in a Japanese film in 1954 and has been the subject of many subsequent films and cartoon series. Mary T gets the point with Godzilla. Well done to Mary T. What H is a building used to house an aeroplane? No, it's not Cilla Black. Before you answer that, no. Anna Perkins gets the point with a hanger. The answer, Nicole, is not a hotel. Bambi is now in the lead with Nick Stewart in second place, shares our Debbie McGee of the evening. It is not a hidey hole. No, it's definitely not a hidey hole. Right. What do Christians call the first 39 books of the Bible from Genesis to Malachi? Mary T gets it with Old Testament, though you don't spell it correctly. I understand the sentiment, so we accept Mary T's answer. Well done to Mary T. Which insect produces honey? Nick Stewart gets the point with B. Well done to Nick Stewart. You're all guessing this one. Lots of you coming in with B. You're all getting it correct for once. You are all the strongest link on a very easy question. You were definitely not born in a barn. You were perhaps born in a beehive. So there we go. Right. The next question is, what colour is the felt on a UK snooker table? I don't know why this book has a capital S on snooker, but there we are. The colour is green, and the winner of the point is yet again Nick Stewart. He is the fastest finger first here, the most forward finger first, or whatever they call them. Anyway, your penultimate question. Which river is crossed near Hull by Britain's longest suspension bridge? Hull. I can't say I've ever been to Hull, but there we go. Conrad Wilson gets it with Humber. Well done to Conrad Wilson, who has got the point with Humber. And finally, what does the U in USA stand for? Mary T gets the point with United, the United States of America, though they are rather disunited currently with Sleepy Joe, who is the dead man walking, and the big orange blob as alternatives to be their next leader, it seems. So I don't think there's much unity going on there. Nick Stewart has won our quiz. Bambi has come second place. So well done to Nick Stewart, and well done to the rest of you for partaking in this matter. Alexis is still catching up on the quiz, and Janet also is here on catch up. I don't know what speed you're all watching this at, or where you're watching it, or how you're watching it. Some of you seem to watch things at a different speed to others. I can only speak as I find, and I scroll down the column and I read the order in the order that the answers come in. So now I shall go away and watch the ridiculous Mark Williams Thomas program about Baroness Bra and her ridiculous PPE nonsense. This is the program that she has been funding, or her husband's company have been funding. Cult Television points out there's a little man powering on a bicycle. Yes, I think, as you know, Cult Television, I operate generally by carrier pigeon. I'm not particularly good with technological devices, and the person who was meant to help me with my technological devices keeps putting off coming to visit me because he's got other problems. So I hope to be able to be technically better soon, but I don't think I will ever quite reach the 21st century. Anyway, thank you very much to you all. Thank you very much for participation. We have had nearly 1 hour of chitter-chatter conversation, and we haven't touched upon anything too bonkers, but Born in a Beehive is a new one. Yes, Harriet. Yes, people seem to like that. And good gardening, good night. Yes, that's another way of ending a program. Yes, Doreen. So I thank you all for your participation, your enthusiasm, and I say good night and good gardening and sleep tight and don't have nightmares, as the late, great Jill Dando once said. Thank you very much to you all and goodbye. Take care. Goodbye.